Welcome to Becoming Awesome with Peter D.
Hey, you beautiful people. This is Peter D, and I'm so excited because today's message is going to be about the power of a group consciousness. And we'll be receiving a channeled message in just a moment. But before we do, I'd like to tell you that I've been working with a meditation group for, 14 years now? And we have formed a group consciousness. And in doing so, we've received all kinds of benefits. Whenever any of us pray, we now pray with the power of an entire group and all their angels and guides focusing in on our prayers, even though it's being done individually. And another amazing benefit is that when one person in the group receives an upgrade, a skill or ability, they can take it to the group, and then the group can focus on meditation on it. And because that person has that skill or ability, they act like an anchor and a transmitter to the rest of the group, and everybody quickly receives it. So we just keep bootstrapping each other up on the ascension ladder because we've enjoyed the benefit of group consciousness. So if you're interested in joining into a group consciousness, check the links below to join the Becoming Awesome community. One of the things we're going to be doing there is creating a group consciousness besides offering support in group meditations. So let's get into the channeled message, see what my sacred higher self has to say about this wonderful topic. Remember, put your comments below because it's not just us talking to you. It's like, I'd love to hear what you have to say, and other people can benefit from your wisdom. Now, here we go. Greetings, most beautiful souls. We are so happy to have this opportunity once again to be in your energetic presence, to bend your rules of time and space, so that even though we are here recording this at some date in your past, when you receive it, we are right there with you. We can connect, feel your energy, and shape this message that's being made in your past to better reflect, better give you the information you need in the channel's future. So thank you for this connection, the uplift for all of us. Today's topic is on group consciousness. And you should know that all consciousness is a group. Now, your consciousness is individuated. This is true because it identifies as this particular fraction of itself, looking back at itself. And that's why it has that individual perspective. But it is not separate from that which it is looking back on. By nature, consciousness is a group. Consciousness is what permeates creation. One of the teachers that the channel Peter has followed has spoken of how consciousness plus energy determines the nature of reality. Energy is its own field that is applied, and consciousness is again another field that's overlaid energy to create your reality. So what you have is the idea that it is not just an individual, it is a group that is speaking at all times. You see, the oneness that permeates everything comes from source. There's only one source. The channel has been so happy that he had all these beautiful gods and deities and angels and pictures behind him. And people all think, oh, how can you worship all these different entities? He does not, because there's only one. But it has many expressions, many fractals, so that each of us can meet it on its own terms where it is best for us. Just like one child likes to eat this and another child likes to eat that, because God loves you, he provides a banquet, a bounty, so that we can each have the flavors we most desire and relate to source in the way we most desire. So source itself has many different expressions. It is a group. And you, being part of source, are part of that group. So when the channel speaks of creating a group consciousness, he's not really creating anything that isn't already there. He's only opening himself up to, and the people he meditates with open themselves up to experiencing at a frequency that's more inclusive and has more of the group energy in it. Now, this group energy is so important because it is stronger when it has multiple points of focus. As such, when you pray for manifestation, like a healing or a boon of wealth or something like that, then more energy is applied to it. Hence, your reality shifts to reflect it more clearly, more profoundly, and even, yes, more quickly. So, this is understanding the nature, the beauty of a group consciousness in ways you hadn't thought of. It's all just you anyway. But rather than being the individual focus of Sally or Jane or Tomas, you're the individual focus of a collective. And by expanding to that group focus, then you see more, you feel more, you receive more. Now, you often hear us speak of we, because when you're at this frequency and this level of channeling, you're in the oneness field. And so it's no longer just you, even though it may be you channeling a specific voice. That voice is always a we at this level because it's more expanded and more connected. For sake of clarity and for understanding, many people channel entities and they speak in terms of I in the singular. And that is true for the understanding of that channel. But for the reality of the essence of that being, it is a we. Now, you see some channeled messages are from collectives. One of the more popular channels on the planet, Abraham, as channeled by Esther Hicks, is clearly a connective. It says so. Bashar, as channeled by Daryl Anka, speaks of itself as a collective. The 90-Octoran Council, the Council of Nine, the Council of Light, the Council of Angels. All these are collectives. So you're starting to see that when you move into the higher realms, and again, it's not higher, just that the energy is less dense, and in 3D, higher or lower is a way to understand it. So when you move into the higher realms, you are this collective. You are this consciousness that is more expansive. And so when you open up to these channels, you're immediately triggering. You're letting neural pathways think, oh, there's a group out there. And as I speak with this group and receive messages from this group, it activates me to allow my group to form. So this is part of ascension, and this is where you're going as a planet. And the more you head in that direction, the less you can do things like war. Because why would you fight with a part of yourself when you start to get in that collective? And it's only being in that singularity, that separation, that allows all the strife and war to take place. And as ascension hits the planet, of course, that's going to fade away. This is why some people who are really fixed and holding on to their ego as their identity, are fighting it so much. And you have that fight because they don't want to let go. So they have to fight and win and survive, they think. Because that's what lower mind does. You know what it is. Lower mind is desperate to survive. That's why we always talk about clear, clear, clear. And what are we clearing? We're clearing those places that have been blocked, where mind has come in to give you a reason and excuse for the blockage. Oh, that's the way I am, or I had this trauma when I was 12, or whatever it is, to keep it fixed. But as you clear that, then it dissipates. And then the egoic mind, the localized mind, starts to dissolve. And then you become your greater self. You've heard it spoken of, your higher angels. Well, that is you. And you become that. And as you become that, you become more of a group conscious, more of a group focus, more of a planetary collective focus. And then war and those things will just fade away. So it's not about fighting the war or winning or beating the bad guys or any of that. We've given you this message often and we wish to reinforce it. It's not the external fight that's going to get you there. It's the internal clearing and accepting that you already are a collective. And this is what's important to understand, is that collective that you already are includes those that you're in opposition to. The ones that you think are wrong or are controlling or are evil or wherever you want to put them on the spectrum of dark and light, it includes them. That's part of you because it's in your collective field. And when you own that, then you can clear it. The beautiful, beautiful process that many of you understand, Ho'oponopono, is where someone takes responsibility for what is going on in another person because they are that other person. They understand it. And so they pray in a way of, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And they do this in such a way that they become the energetic frequency of the person they are sending this to. Hence, the healing takes place, even though they're doing the work. It means they experience the pain, of course, but it's a small price to pay for planetary peace. And of course, that moment of pain you experience opens you up to an entire collective and infinite expanse of bliss. Anything fully experienced turns to bliss. And then you get to experience what it's like to be in that oneness field. And you've lost any opposition. So the people who practice that type of healing, Ho'oponopono, understand the interconnected nature of consciousness. And this is what you are. And when speaking of a group consciousness, you're at that place where you're moving from your separate identities in 3D. The vibrations are getting higher and you're becoming more expansive into your 5D self. And that 5D self is a group. It is a bigger you. And as you move into that, you're going to know that this is a natural progression. Yes, I have been in the darkness. I have been separate. But now as I become closer and more connected to my source, to God, more filled with divine, then I naturally experience the group. So this is a coming of age for you. And we're introducing this idea for you to say, oh, well, maybe I can be part of a group consciousness, even if it's just once a week as part of this community or whatever group that you choose to form to experience. You then, those are your training wheels. Those are your practice experiences. And then you get to sit there and go, oh, this is natural. It feels kind of good. Maybe my true self identifies with this. I kind of remember this. And you become more expansive and your vibration goes up and you live there more. So this is the natural progression. When the channel first started his group consciousness, he did not know he was forming a group consciousness. He was just practicing a technique which was called info looping, where people would meditate and then after getting into oneness and meditating, they would share the individual bits of their meditation to trigger whatever was being held in other people. And in that triggering, they would see their own resistances and they would come together. So that's literally how the process works is you get into oneness, you do your group intent together, then you reflect on it. And in the reflecting, you do not interrupt, you do not teach, you hear, and then you respond authentically after everybody has had a chance to share what they received in their meditation. So in the process of doing that, two things happened. One is they started to realize that 3 or 4 or 5 people every night would be sharing basically the same kind of experience in their meditation. They're like, whoa, we're all having the same visions. We're all having the same kind of messages. And it's like, whoa, that's just crazy to see after a while. It just changes you from you're no longer separate to you're part of this group. And then they found they could no longer pray individually for a person. They just couldn't. They could only see the whole group getting the benefit. And then they couldn't even see the whole group getting the benefit. They could only see the whole community getting the benefit. So now when they do an intent, it's always that everybody in their group and everybody they meet and interact with receives this blessing. It's just naturally how it works in the group consciousness. The author he first heard of a similar concept from was Lynn McTaggart. In her book, The Power of Eight, she talked about how those people who were praying in a Power of Eight group, those who were praying for the person who wanted to receive it, they received more benefits than the actual person, or as much or more. She called it a boomerang effect. And what it is by practicing this, the channel and his group identified that they are in that field. And it didn't matter whether they were the ones praying for another or themselves. They received it simply by holding the intent and the goodwill. And that's when they realized, well, if I'm getting more from giving this prayer to somebody else, maybe there's no separation between that somebody else and me. And that's when the idea of a group consciousness formed. And they named their group, they call it Elan, not like you would call the name Elon, but it's actually the French for verb, excitement, style, panache. They named their group. And now it has become what many call an egregore, which is a creation of humanity that is a consciousness outside those who created it. So it is its own entity now. And of course, they wonder and they ask the question, chicken and egg, did the consciousness come because they created it, or was that group consciousness always there and they discovered it? Now, if you go back to what we were telling you earlier, that it's all one consciousness anyway, and it has many, many masks and many, many faces, because that's the dance of creation. And that's how consciousness and life grows and expands. So the answer is all of that is true. They no longer worry trying to figure out what came first. They know that there's a group consciousness. And so when they choose to pray as an individual, they invoke their group consciousness. They ask Elan to be with them. And they now have the blessings of everybody in the group, because everybody in the group has, by consent, said, yes, I give my consciousness to this group. For any prayers that you choose to pray, my higher self, my angelic team is with you. Now, this is self-selecting, so that if the person is praying for something that is against the morality or the code of the other person in the group, they just won't show up. Their angels, their guide, their higher self just won't show up. So what this does is it starts to realize then that the more you're in service, the more you're helping everyone, the more the group shows up. So it's a regulating factor that doesn't create selfishness. In fact, it creates the opposite. It creates service, because then the prayers are more powerfully answered. We've covered a lot of information and we're so excited. And we hope that you will experience group consciousness. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to share what it is like of how we exist when what Peter calls his higher self is. And this is where you're headed, and you're going to taste it as you enjoy group consciousness. Many, many blessings to you. Wow, my sacred higher self was on fire with that message. I was kind of tired and sad before I started, but not now after hearing all that. Anyway, please share this message with people you think it'll find useful. That'll help the YouTube algorithm put it out there. And it's also important for people to hear what's going on. Please put your comments below. Have you experienced anything like this? What do you think about it? I'd love to know. Let's get a discussion going. And if you're interested, you can join our Becoming Awesome community. It's at patreon.com/becomingawesome. And what we'll be doing there is, among other things, creating a group consciousness. But mainly, you won't have to be alone. You'll get to talk and share with other people, chat with them, and see them each week during the meditations, and realize there's a lot of us on this journey, and it's so much happier to do it together. Stay blessed, everybody.